Here are the 5 things you need to do right now to be prepared